This is Standing Watch. And now, Evangelist Norbert Link.
Greetings everyone, and welcome back to our Standing Watch program. The last 2 weeks have seen exciting, interesting, frightening developments in Germany. I'm talking about a determination which has been made about the AfD, a right-wing party, and reactions to that determination. Newsweek wrote on May 2. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio tore into Germany on Friday after its domestic intelligence service designated the far-right Alternative for Germany party, the AfD, as an extreme group. Germany just gave its spy agencies new powers to surveil the opposition. That is not democracy, it's tyranny in disguise, Rubio wrote on X. Politico added on May 2, this is the first time in modern German history that a party with nationwide representation on the federal level has been classified as extremist. The Hill wrote on May 2, J.D. Vance said the entity is the most popular party in Germany and by far the most representative of East Germany. Now the bureaucrats try to destroy it. The West tore down the Berlin Wall together, and it has been rebuilt, not by the Soviets or the Russians, but by the German establishment, the Vice President wrote Friday on X. It is my opinion that Rubio and Vance and other Americans in the Trump administration are correct with their assessment. But Germans don't like Americans to tell them what to do. They don't like to have Americans tell them how their country is being ruled. And so the reaction was quite interesting. Here's an article by Die Welt, dated May 4. Not only is the US already an unpredictable and therefore difficult partner, the obsession with Germany in the Trump camp is growing and has now also engulfed Rubio, someone who has actually been considered a traditional foreign policy expert. This context gives his attack on Germany increased weight. Now he is following Vance and Musk's course and forming a united front against Berlin in the White House. And of course this decision has put Friedrich Merz, the new Chancellor, under a lot of pressure. The Guardian wrote on May 2, Merz's party has been torn over how to deal with the AfD. Merz tacitly cooperated with the party earlier this year, despite insisting he would not, to push migration policies through Parliament. And on the local level, his party and the AfD have cooperated on issues such as ruling that the German flag should be hoisted in schools. Up until now that wasn't even clear. Jens Spahn, it says, Merz's close ally, and quite frankly he is probably the number 2 now in Germany. He is the right-hand man to Merz, who is the leader. Spahn is the leader of the party, the CDU, and he has made it very clear that one of these days he wants to become Chancellor. Jens Spahn recently prompted scorn by suggesting the AfD should be treated as a normal opposition party. And so the fight in Germany now against the AfD continues. Breitbart wrote on May 5, this timing, it is alleged, is not a matter of coincidence. With a claim aired by Germany's Bild newspaper today that the old left-wing government rushed through the order to classify the AfD as extremist as one of their final acts before losing power. The new Interior Minister, who is being sworn in on Tuesday, happened yesterday, believed, per that report, that the decision wasn't even properly reviewed before being promulgated, and that once he is in office this week, he intends to have it reviewed. Now, that doesn't mean that he is going to change it, he just wants to review it. And so Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban posted this on X on May 3, what the hell is going on in Germany? you can count on us, Alice Weidel, the leader of the AfD. Julian Raichett, he is the former Bild editor-in-chief of the Bild Zeitung, the Bild newspaper, wrote in News on May 5. Nothing publicly known about AfD statements even remotely borders on violent anti-constitutionalism. Much of it is frustrated colloquial German, as expressed by millions of people. Everything publicly known is clearly protected by freedom of expression. The real scandal here is that an intelligence agency is collecting countless statements and compiling them into a secret dossier that clearly fall under the fundamental right of freedom of expression. What we are experiencing is the greatest attack on freedom of expression ever undertaken by a federal government. Anyone who participates in this would themselves be a case for the Federal Office of the Protection of the Constitution in a functioning system. You can strongly reject the choice of words of the AfD or not, but if this is supposed to be the case for the intelligence agency, we will soon have informants at the bars of this country again. What's happening right now is a national crisis, a serious civil rights crisis. The state wants to end freedom of expression as it has existed for 75 years. And all of this had undoubtedly an effect on the election of Friedrich Merz as Chancellor on Tuesday. This was a pro forma vote in the German parliament, but it didn't work out that way at all. Deutsche Welle wrote on May 6, German conservative leader Friedrich Merz has been elected Chancellor in a second round of voting after a dramatic day in Germany's lower house of parliament, the Bundestag. A total of 325 lawmakers voted in favor of Merz this time around, bringing him over the necessary 316 threshold. Earlier, the 69-year-old became the first presumptive chancellor to fail in the first round of voting, a unique event in Germany. With 310 yes votes, he was 6 votes short of a chancellor majority. He becomes Germany's 10th post-war chancellor and the Christian Democrats' 6th holder of the post. So what happened here is that people in his own party, and of course in the coalition party, voted against him. And so he didn't win in the first round. And of course the AfD had a high day. They said, well, hey, let's have new elections, national elections. Of course they knew if there would be national elections, they would get even much more of a support than what they have already obtained. And so no, they didn't want to do that. So they had a second round and then they confirmed him as chancellor. But it shows on what slippery road Merz is walking. And so now, being one of the most unpopular politicians in Germany, he started to criticize the United States. Focus wrote on May 7. Merz criticized the voices within the US government that supported the AfD in the federal election campaign and recently criticized the party's classification as right-wing extremists by the Federal Office for the Protection of the Constitution. These were, quote, absurd observations about the Federal Republic of Germany, Merz said. I did not interfere in the American election campaign and take sides unilaterally for one side or the other. He therefore encouraged the American government to let domestic politics in Germany be domestic politics. Well, that's not going to happen. But we also know one other thing. This coalition between the CDU under Merz and the SPD is doomed to fail. This is not going to survive. We have told you that the last coalition, the so-called Ampel coalition between the SPD and the Green and the FDP wouldn't survive, and it collapsed. This one is bound to collapse too. The opinions, the ideas are far too different, incompatible. And what is going to happen when suddenly Merz's position is being questioned? Well, I already mentioned Jens Spahn as one contender. Another one is Boris Pistorius, the former Minister of Defense. He is staying the Minister of Defense, and he is the most popular politician in Germany. So that is also something to really observe. And of course, the AfD is right there, and they are not going to go away. In fact, everything which has happened so far is only helping them, promoting even more of their success. So we can see dramatic events going on in Germany pretty soon. Events which actually have been ultimately prophesied in your Bible. And we will watch, we will stay tuned, and we will observe and then tell you what is going to happen in the light of biblical prophecy. Thank you very much for listening. This is Norbert Link for the Standing Watch program.
Standing Watch is a presentation by the Church of the Eternal God, P.O. Box 270519, San Diego, California 92198. More information is also available at our website, eternalgod.org.